Hello friends, how are you? You must be doing great. This is Prashant and welcome to NextIS. So in today's video, we are going to discuss certain prelims questions which are helpful for you for prelims 2020. You know this NextIS initiative. So we are not going to waste time now and let's start from the first question. Today's first question is with reference to Greenco rating system, recently seen in news, consider the following statements. It evaluates companies on the environmental friendliness of their activities using life cycle approach. It is developed by Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry in collaboration with Ministry of Environment, and Greenco rating is applicable to both manufacturing facilities and service sector units. See, what is this Greenco rating system, that we'll see, and then we can solve this question. First of all, Greenco rating system. So it is green company rating system. Now this green company rating system obviously evaluates the companies on the environment friendliness of their activities. So during the whole life cycle of the company's product, there will be certain activities that company will be doing, that is procurement, design, production, even sale, everything. So during all these activities, what are different environment friendly activities that are done by the companies? What are the approaches that are environmental friendly, that is actually adopted by the company, that is actually evaluated by the Greenco rating system. So this is developed by Confederation of Indian Industry. So it is only CII that develop is. Ministry of Environment and Climate Change has nothing to do with this. However, very important point, and that you must remember, that is it has been acknowledged in India's INDCs. We know that India's intended nationally determined contributions have been submitted to UNFCCC. In that INDCs document, this Greenco rating system has been acknowledged. So see, this rating system actually is both for manufacturing facilities and service sector unit. So it rates each particular unit for its environmental friendliness. So whether it's a manufacturing unit or service sector unit. So but which units are actually rated by this? The unit that is in existence minimum for, or in operation minimum for 3 years of period. So minimum 3 years old unit should be there for the rating, or even if there are any new plants or facilities, then minimum 2 years it should be in operation. Fine. So these are the different parameters on which your Greenco rating system works. So these are the parameters for evaluation, like energy efficiency, greenhouse gas mitigation, product stewardship, and if you see, there are different weightages for each parameter. So total rating, overall rating is out of 1000. Fine. So these are the different parameters for this. So if you go back to your question, you see it evaluates companies on environmental friendliness used on life cycle approach. This is right. It is developed by CII, as I told you. So this statement is wrong, and of course applicable for both the facilities, that is manufacturing and service sector unit. So our answer should be B. Our next question. Now this question is from the basic economics concept. With reference to ways and means advances, consider the following statements. Under this facility, RBI extend 1 year tenure short-term loans. It is available to both central and state governments, and the interest rate charge is equal to MSF rate, that is marginal standing facility rate. So which of the above statement are correct? Again, always read question carefully, whether it is they're asking the statement which are correct or which are not correct. It is asking the statement which are correct. So what is ways and means advances? So basically, ways and means advances is used by the government to meet the temporary mismatch in its receipt and payments. See, government has many expenditures. Sometimes it has to do expenditure immediately. However, its receipts will be delayed. So there will be certain temporary fund crunch or temporary cash crunch. So that is made by the loans that are taken from the RBI, and the loans that are given by RBI for such temporary mismatches is called as the wage and means advances. Okay. So this particular loan is given for 90 days. It means within 90 days the government has to give back the money. The interest rate charge is repo rate, and of course the government, the central government, cannot avail this facility for unlimited payment. Means there are certain limitations up to which the loans can be taken for 90 days under wage and means advantage and the advances, sorry, and these limits for WMA are mutually decided by RBI and Government of India. Suppose these 90 days are exceeded, so government is taking loan for 90 days under wage and means advances, let's say these 90 days are exceeded, then it is treated as overdraft. Let's say there is 100 crore limit decided by RBI and Government of India. But beyond that, if Government of India takes money from RBI for 90 days, then that is also treated as overdraft. So this overdraft cannot be there for more than 10 consecutive days. So if government takes beyond limit, let's say beyond limit government takes 20 crore rupees, then this 20 crore overdraft will be there for the government only for 10 days, 10 consecutive days. And for this overdraft money, that is this money that is taken beyond limit of the wage and means advances, that interest rate for that will be 2% more than the repo rate. For normal wage and means advance, interest rate will be equal to repo rate. For overdraft, it will be 2% more than the repo rate. Now this wage and means advance is also for the state government. It is not only for central government, it is for the state government. However, for state governments, it is a special drawing facility. There is special WMA as well as normal WMA. There are two types of WMA for state governments. What is that? That is special WMA and normal WMA. What is special WMA then? Special WMA is what? If state government wants the temporary funds from the RBI, it has to first avail what is called as the special WMA. Okay, and only when special WMA limit is exhausted, it will go to what is called as the normal WMA. So special WMA, of course, government will state government will take certain loan from the RBI. Now for that, it has to put some collateral with RBI, and that will be state government securities. Sorry, whatever investment that state government has done in securities, those securities will be state government and will keep as a collateral with the RBI. Now interest rate for the SDF is 1% less than the repo rate. See, normal, the WMA for the central government, the interest rate was equal to repo rate. Here interest rate is less than 1% of the repo rate. Now for how much amount that special WMA can be drawn from the RBI, that is decided by the amount of investment the state government has done in treasury bills and the incremental investment in consolidated sinking fund. So more the investment in this treasury bills and more the incremental investment in consolidated sinking fund, the more the WMA facility under special WMA for state government. That's it. What is consolidated sinking fund? See, any type of sinking fund is basically a fund that is set aside by a company or government for repayment of its liabilities. We know that the state governments has a lot of liabilities. It has to pay a lot of its debt. So for that, it keeps certain fund that is called as the consolidated sinking fund that is kept with the RBI. So if in any particular year it is doing more investment in this consolidated sinking fund, then it might be able to draw more from the special WMA. Now once the special WMA is exhausted, then state government can go for the normal WMA. Again, for normal WMA, time period is 90 days. Under normal WMA now, the limit is decided for the WMA by the 3-year average of actual revenue and capital expenditure of the state, and interest rate will be equal to the repo rate. Now if beyond this limit, normal WMA limit, or if state government takes the loan, then that is treated as the overdraft, or beyond 90 days if it takes the loan, that is treated as the overdraft. So overdraft will be for 14 consecutive days. What will be the interest rate for the overdraft for state governments? If overdraft is up to 100% of the WMA limit, it will be 2% above repo rate. If it is more than the 100% of the WMA limit, then it is 5% above the repo rate. So it is quite a costly affair if overdraft is there. Fine. Now whatever the present conditions or conditionalities for the wage and means advantage for states are, those were actually decided according to the recommendations of the Advisory Committee on Wage and Means Advances Scheme for State Government 2015, that is Shri Sumit Bose. Its chairman was Shri Sumit Bose. Fine. So this was wage and means advances. So let's see our statements here in the question. Under this facility, RBI extends 1 year, 10-year short-term loans. No, the loans are for 90 days. Fine. So this is wrong. The facility is available to both central and state government. Right. The interest rate charged on the loan under the facility is equal to actually repo rate. So this is also wrong. So our answer should be B. Okay. So B is the right answer. With reference to Prime Minister's National Relief Fund, consider the following statement. See, PNNRF and PM CARES Fund are two different funds. Okay. Prime Minister's National Relief Fund and PM CARES funds. Okay, these are two different funds that we must understand. Now these both funds are in news because of the recent COVID-19 crisis and the controversies regarding the PM CARES fund. So that's why we will cover what is Prime Minister's National Relief Fund through this question. First of all, the purpose of this class is to cover these questions as well as the concept, so that this could be a one-stop solution for the particular concept for you. So when we talk about the Prime Minister National Relief Fund, we will not only discuss the statements given in the here, but we'll discuss all the provisions of the Prime Minister National Relief Fund, so that you need not to go outside and read anything regarding this. You can simply watch this video and clear your concepts and know the most of the provisions regarding that particular scheme of the government or concept. Fine. So the fund is used to pay expenses for medical treatment like heart surgeries, kidney transplantation. The fund has been given legal status under the DM Act, Disaster Management Act, and it accepts only voluntary contributions or donations, and it does not take anything from budgetary sources of the government. Fine. So which are the correct statements? So what is Prime Minister National Relief Fund? See, this particular fund was constituted under Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's government. The original purpose was, of course, to help the displaced person from the Pakistan. We know that many people after partition came from Pakistan to India. To help them, this particular fund was constituted that time. However, now this fund is used for the immediate relief of families or those killed in the natural calamities. We know that. For that it is used. Even there are certain victims of the accidents and major riots. Even for their relief also this fund has been used. As well as it is also used for the medical treatment of the heart surgeries, kidney transplantation, cancer treatment. Normally when we see the National Relief Fund, we feel that is used only for the emergencies. No. The emergency relief, of course, is done by this fund, but also there are certain medical treatments which are funded by this fund, that this particular Prime Minister National Relief Fund also. What are different features of the fund? First of all, disbursements are made with the approval of Prime Minister. It is not constituted by the Act of Parliament, so of course it does not come under the Disaster Management Act. The contributions are exempt under the Income Tax Act. So if you do contributions, the Form 80C we know about Income Tax Act, the exemptions are given. The chairman of the PM NRF, who is that? Prime Minister. It also qualified, the contributions are qualified for the CSR, and it only accepts the voluntary donations from individuals and institutions. It does not accept any support from the budget or even from the balance sheets of the public sector undertaking. So even if something comes from the public sector undertakings balance sheets or their profit, it will not be accepted. As a part of CSR, it will be from private sector, it will be accepted, but it is not accept anything from the budgetary resources of the government. Only voluntary contributions by individuals and institutions are taken. So you see here, the fund is used to pay expenses for medical treatment like heart surgery. This is right. The fund has been given legal status. Wrong. The fund accepts only voluntary donations and it takes nothing from the government budget. So that is also right. Our answer should be B. That is 1 and 3. Now, as we have discussed Prime Minister's National Relief Fund, it is quite important here that we also discuss the PM CARES Fund. So which one of the following is not, again read the question properly, which one of the following is not the ex officio trustee of Prime Minister's Citizen Assistance and Relief in Emergency Situation Fund? Prime Minister's Citizen Assistance and Relief in Emergency Situation Fund is basically PM CARES Fund. So it is asking which of the following is not an ex officio trustee of this particular fund. So you see, PM CARES Fund, it has been recently constituted. What are the objective of this fund? To give any relief in the public health emergency or any other kind of emergency. It's not like only it has been constituted for the COVID-19 crisis. This particular PM CARES Fund can be used for the any other emergency. Now that emergency might be man-made or natural. So even the support can be given for relevant research also in that particular area. Okay, so it also gives the financial assistance, those who are killed in certain particular, or those who are victims of this particular calamities. The financial assistance is given, and other assistance can also be given which is not inconsistent with the above objectives, and that particular activity is again specified by the trust. So if you see, the Prime Minister is the ex officio chairman of the PM CARES Fund, As it is a trust, it has members, and three are the ex officio members, that is Minister of Defense, Minister of Home Affairs, and Minister of Finance. Minister of Defense, Minister of Home Affairs, and Minister of Finance. You should remember this. These are the ex officio trustees of the fund. So if you go to a question, let's see, this Minister of Defense, Minister of Home Affairs, and Minister of Finance are the ex officio members of this fund. So it is Vice Chairman of the Niti Aayog who is not the ex officio trustee of the PM's Care Fund. So answer here is D. Okay. So apart from these three members, there are other members. There are more three members which are nominated by the Prime Minister. Prime Minister is the chairman of the board of trustees. He nominates more three members, and those will be again three members of the PM Cares Fund. So these are nominated from the field of research, health, science, social work, law, public administration, and philanthropy. And all these members work in their pro bono capacity. It means they are not given any kind of money for their services. No remuneration will be there. They work on the voluntary basis. Now, what are other features? First of all, the contributions, again like PMNRF, the contributions are only voluntary contributions and does not get any contribution from the budgetary support. Contributions are exempted under Income Tax Act. They are also qualified for the CSR expenditure, and PM Care Fund also got exemptions from the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. It means the foreigners, even foreign institutions can contribute to this. Okay. So even in Prime Minister National Relief Fund, the foreign contributions are accepted. Next question, that is regarding the fiscal deficit of the government. So this question is regarding the trends of fiscal deficit of the government. The fiscal deficit of the government, general government. When we say general government, it means the fiscal deficit combined of central plus state has been declining steadily in last 5 years. The steady word is important. When we say steadily declining means, let's say 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, these are the years. Okay. So these are the years. So this should steadily decline, means every year there should be some decline. Fine. So there should be decline every year, that is called as a steady decline. So if it is like, if it is decline from 2015 to 16 and 17 it increases and again it decreases, overall there is a decline. However, in 2017 it had increased. So this is not a steady decline. So you see second statement, revenue deficit of the general government has been steadily declining. General government it is asking. It is not asking specifically center or state. It is asking the combined deficits. And fiscal deficits of states. States means not central government, is only states, have been steadily increasing in last 5 years. Which of the following statements are not correct? It is asking which of the statements above are not correct. So what is fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit is of course the difference between government's total expenditure and total receipts, excluding borrowing and liabilities. Fine. So basically, gross fiscal deficit is total expenditure minus revenue receipts plus non-debt creating capital receipts. It means whatever debt creating receipts of the government are there, that contributes to what is called as a fiscal deficit. So total borrowings of the government we can say is the fiscal deficit of the government. Revenue deficit, of course we know, it's revenue expenditure minus revenue receipts. So if you see in today's Hindu newspaper, they are saying that the fiscal deficit of the government for year 2020-2022 might go to 8% of the GDP. So this year fiscal deficit target was 3.5% of the GDP. However, experts are saying that it might go to 8% of the GDP. So that's why this question has been taken. And already government has exhausted 83% of the full year budget fiscal deficit limit. Means full year budget fiscal deficit limit was 3.5%. Already government has exhausted 83% of it and year is 8 to go. Why? Because of the COVID-19 crisis, the revenue stream of the government is almost blocked. The revenue is less, however expenditure is more. So that's why this is happening. So if you see trends in the general government debt and deficit now, if you see here, general government fiscal deficit, the question is saying it is steadily declining in last 5 years. See, it has declined, overall decline is shown there. Of course, this year this is going to increase. But in last 5 years, according to economic survey, if you see till 2019-20, there is general decline. However, in between it increased also. In 2017-18 it was 5.8%, then it became to 6.2% and it came down. So there is no steady decline. So general government revenue deficit, if you see by this green line, there is no steady decline as such. There is overall decline from 2017-18, But in last 5 years, in 2016-17, it was 2.3%, then it decreased, then it decreased, then again it increased. Okay, so no steady decline is there. And in case of state government's revenue deficit, if you see, there is no steady increase in that. There is in fact overall decline. Of course, this year it might increase, but there is overall decline. So there is no question of steady increase at all. There is no question of increase at all. The question, it is declining, so there is no steady increase. So if you go back to our question, let's see, fiscal deficit of general government has been steadily declining. No, it's wrong. Revenue deficit of the general government has been steadily declining in last 5 years. It's wrong. There is a decline, of course, in fiscal deficit, but that is not steady. And fiscal deficit of the state have been steadily increasing last 5 years. That is also wrong. So our answer should be D, because it is asking which of the statements are not right. So these were the questions from today. That's all from today. Keep watching our videos, keep preparing for prelims, keep solving questions. If you have any doubt, you can always contact any faculty from the Next IAS. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay strong, and stay positive. Thank you.